Hey everybody, Ken Grace from Roxy Music. We are an independent music store in northern Indiana, up right around Lake Michigan, LaPorte, Indiana. If you are ever in the area, stop in and say hi. We'd sure love to talk with you. Today, we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, guitar pedals. Why guitar pedals? Because frankly, I'm not that good, and I can make things up with guitar pedals and cover the sound of my abilities, cover my lack of ability with cool sounds. So I love guitar pedals, so we're going to talk about it today. We're going to get into it. We want to help you figure out how do you get into this world. It's one of the biggest questions we get asked all the time with people coming in the shop is, where do I even start with this? So stick with us. Today I'm with Tyler. This is my son Tyler. It looks like we're twinning, and you know I hear that twinning is winning. David in the back is shaking his head. No, you did not just say that. But anyways, yeah. So which is a good time to say, hey, stop over to our website and pick up some merch. We got some cool shirts and hats over there. Support us that way. We'd love to see you. So stick around. We're going to get into kind of introducing you to the world of guitar pedals. Welcome back. Thank you for sticking with us. If you could, while you're at it, just do us a favor and click like, subscribe, comment, tell us how you disagree with us. I hear that negative comments help us the most. So we would love to get a conversation going with you, because some of you know way more than we know about this, and we love to learn just like everybody else. Like I said, we are an independent music store. We sell a ton of guitars. We have sound and drums, and we have lessons, and so we love to teach people. But today we're getting into pedals. This is a world that I love. I don't have my pedal board. We have Tyler's pedal board behind us. It's rather large. It's got a few pedals on it.
Just a few.
It looks like how do we make sense of all that? And so I want to get into a little bit just kind of talking about pedals. So what do you think? Where should we start?
Well, what are the different kinds of pedals you can get?
Man, okay, so I think that you could get every kind of pedal that you want.
What are those?
Yeah, so you can get anything from tuners. You should probably have a tuner on your pedal board somewhere, because probably the worst thing you could do is play it out of tune. So I don't have one here, but you can get any kind of tuner and stick it on your pedal board. But not everybody has one. You can use a clip-on. You can use whatever.
Clip-ons are a great place to start.
Yeah, they're great. They're not as expensive as a pedal board tuner, but it's really nice to just be able to reach down and tap a tuner and make sure you're in tune, not in tuner. And like Reed likes to say, tune it or die. Right, so get in tune. So pick up a tuner of some type. Doesn't have to be on a pedal board. I think the first place you got to start with a pedal board is a board or a pedal board, but you don't necessarily need to have one.
I've seen a lot of people play without it.
Yep, a lot of people will set up and they'll just like put it on the floor. I've gotten into the world and it kind of look like this. They'll just kind of have their pedals set up and they'll go at it. I love having a board. I just have this little expandable D'Addario board that I love because I can expand it out and it can grow and I can take it apart. But this isn't my main pedal board. I'm going to not put it back together apparently. My main pedal board is a little bit larger, but they kind of, so you've got kind of tuners, you've got compressors, you've got volume pedals. You've got some kind of an overdrive, distortion, or fuzz. They kind of fall into those categories. Something that makes your guitar sound dirty. And then inside of that, you've got all kinds of flavors of distortion, overdrive, or fuzz. And you could really geek out and if you wanted to and get into what chip is in it, what diode is it. You can get into all kinds of stuff. But for the most part, they're usually mimicking some kind of an amplifier. The circuitry comes off of some kind of, it's gonna like a blues breaker circuitry, or it's gonna be, it's not modeled, but that's like the inspiration that they take when they build these.
What is overdrive doing?
Okay, so this is a great question. So for me, in pedal board world, is your pedal kind of works with your guitar. and your amp. So Tyler's playing through. We have this really cool little Princeton amp down here, and he's got his pedal board here. Let's play the clean sound, Tyler, so we can show it. So that's just clean, all right? Now we could run that and turn it up and get a little bit of tube overdrive going where it's breaking up the tubes and giving it a little bit of a distorted sound, a little bit of overdrive. So an overdrive, though, pushes those tubes, and you have different flavors of overdrives, right? You have like a tube screamer, you've got like a blues driver, the classic blues driver. You've got, this is my Klon clone that I love. They're kind of overdrives, and they slightly compress the sound and cause it to break up. What we call it breakup. It's distorting. It's causing I
think the definition I read was you're pushing more volume in the front end than out the back end.
Yep.
So it compresses that sound to make it, and that compressed sound becomes dirty or broken up.
Yeah, it changes the tone of the guitar for sure. So like I use mine to give the guitar a different shape, right?
Sure.
So let's go ahead, and I'm going to use, so Tyler's got, this is my kind of Klon clone on here. It's a pretty sweet, but he's got an Archer on here that's the same thing, all right? So Tyler, go ahead and play your clean sound, just play.
It's going to be very similar.
Okay, it's essentially the same pedal, all right? So go ahead and just play something I'll turn on. So we're going to kick it up a little bit. So it's slightly breaking up the sound. You can hear just a nice like round tone come to it. It's clipping, we call it clipping. It's a soft clip, it just kind of brings it down.
Yep.
So one of the big things when you turn it on, because it does clip that sound down, you got to bring your volume kind of up so that it's the same, because it's very easy. So let me just show that real quick. So let's turn gain on. Here's your clean sound. So we just compress it. Sounds quieter and it's compressing it out, so you kind of want to bring the volume up to match. But basic overdrive, consider it like the first state, like it's the softest. A lot of blues players, kind of the place where we start. I leave mine on all the time.
Yeah, that one's on for me.
Yeah, I just totally messed up his tone there. But yeah, I leave mine on all the time. It never comes off. From there, though, we go a little bit harder, a little bit more compression.
Yep.
Okay, and that compression we get into like distortion. Okay, and this is the place where you get more sustain out of your notes, right? So he's got a Charlie Brown, which I have one here because we love this distortion pedal. This is an awesome one. You get into like Rats, you get into all kinds of great distortion pedals. Probably one of the biggest, most popular one is the Metal Zone from Boss, right? It is, we call that like it's a hard clip, right? It definitely, so where an overdrive, if your waveform is coming in, overdrive is going to like soft clip it and it's going to do it, but a distortion is going to have a hard clip on it where it hits that and it just stops the sound and it creates a very distinct, like this has got way more sustain and way more overdrive. Your solo lines are going to stay longer, so you'll get a lot more sustain. So distortion, he's got a Charlie Brown, so let's show you the difference on that.
Angry Charlie.
Or the Angry Charlie. Sorry, the Charlie Brown is actually an overdrive, but this is mad. This guy's mad. So all right, so let's go ahead. Let's play it clean. All right, so I'm going to kick on let's kick the volume. Some chunky chords. Yeah, so let's hear the difference. Okay, so let's do that with an overdrive, okay? That's basically distortion. You have things, tone shapers, so he's got an EQ on here. That EQ's got an overdrive on it. Also, it's got a gain knob on it, which kicks in overdrive. We don't need to get into all that stuff, but your basics. You're gonna start with some kind of an overdrive distortion. We get into another level of fuzz.
Yeah. So what you're saying is an overdrive, basically you put it in the sound, and then when it hits that like limit level, it doesn't stop it. It just slows it down to create like a compression sound.
Yeah.
And then you turn it up to increase like the outgoing sound.
Yeah. It definitely causes what we call breakup. It's that idea that it was a clean sound coming in and now it's super dirty.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you add distortion, it gets really dirty. You know. And when you drop D it, then it gets into metal zone, right? So you want to drop D and get that chunky sound, right? You're getting into distortion area, right? Uh-oh, he's doing it. Out of tune. Yeah, so you got to kind of get that sound. All right, so we've got our drives. We have a big muff here that's kind of that gets into what am I trying to say? Fuzz, yeah, gets into fuzz. So you want to stay, that's Jimi Hendrix was a big fuzz guy. He loved his fuzz. So if you, fuzzes are awesome. So, and they're soft. So that was actually pretty funny. You should be laughing at that. All right. So we go from overdrives, we go from distortions, we go from fuzz. Kind of generally, you go in a line, right? So you might stack them, right? And you're going to go generally right to left. So you might. The beauty of it is you can have more than one drive.
Yep.
I
have three.
Yeah, he's got three on here. So we could go. Let's start with. So we might start with a light tube screamer. We might then go to a clon. If I put that back together again, I could add more things on there. There we go. Then we might go to a distortion, right? And you can do what they call stacking. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and just let's get this one going a little bit more. Okay, so we got that on there a little bit. We're going to add a little bit more. So you can totally stack. That's the beautiful thing about overdrives. They're made to play well together. They are friendly with each other.
Yes.
You can kind of create whatever sound you want. Here's the beautiful thing. I don't think you can get it wrong. Like, it's your sound. Mm-hmm. It's what you want. There's a sound you want. So if you're out there starting and you're like, man, there's so many. Basically, there's a whole bunch of varieties of this, and a whole bunch of varieties of this, and a whole bunch of varieties of this. If you have a favorite artist, I say go check out what that artist is playing through. I will give you a secret. Most of them are playing through a really loud amplifier.
Yeah.
That's a big deal in today's world. If you're a student and you're at home, your mom and dad will not like you if you go play through a big Marshall. If you get that going, but that's where most people are starting. They have that, and then some of them just use that. And it's just that's what they use. And so, but for the rest of me, I love pedals, and so. Then we go from there. A lot of people start moving into, on my personal pedal board, I go from a drive and I shove a volume pedal in between the two. Sure. And then I move into what we call space-time and modulation. Mm-hmm. Okay, so space, think reverb, like I'm in this room. I don't know if you can hear it with these mics. It's a big room, it's 5,000 square feet. And there's a lot of echo around us. That would be reverb. Okay, so that would, if you love the way you sound in the shower, it's because that's reverb. All right, if your basement has a sound, it's reverb. Then you have delay or echo, and that is how much time it takes for that sound to hit that wall and come back to me.
Yeah. How do you tell the difference between the two?
Wow, one of them definitely has a distinct.
Yeah, it's a distinct.
It's a distinct clapback. You got a delay on here?
I do.
All right,
it's actually on.
Okay, let's see what you got going here. All right, you hear that? Let me turn it off. That's getting that's pretty close to, it's not quite in slapback territory, but it's pretty close where that sound is hitting pretty fast.
Yep.
So we can go, we could increase the time on it. So let's go ahead and increase the time. Okay. And then we could add what they call feedback on a delay. So what they call feedback is how many times does it echo when you're playing. So strike that thing. So that was one slapback, right?
I think I heard 2.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a second one super quiet. So let's kick it up there. That's how many times does it take to bounce back and forth, or like how many times is it echoing through there. So you find a balance there, and then you're going to end up with an effects level, like how much delay. So go ahead and kick it. This is all delay.
So the volume of the delay is louder.
Yeah, the volume of the effect is louder than the actual struck note. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a pro tip here. Almost everybody has a delay on their sound. Yes. So especially when you hear those monster guitar solos, there's some kind of a delay usually happening. Even if it's just a slight millisecond where they're panning off between 2 amplifiers, there's some kind of a delay. It just makes the sound a little bit bigger and ties the notes together.
Well, so we could do, get that sound back. So we could do like a solo without it, and then I could do something quick with it. Kind of hear the difference.
Okay.
So turn it off. So no delay. This is kind of
He would play super fast for that. See how it happens.
Makes it sound way bigger.
Yeah.
And gives you some.
So it creates a little bit of a broadening of the sound. It spreads it out a little bit. So space and time, that's what that is. So space is how big is how much wash. I like to think of reverb as like how far back in the mix does it push it, because
that's kind of hard to conceptualize.
Yeah, it is. So basically, like how close to this camera can I get, right? No reverb. Like how far away? More reverb. It's how much space between us before you hear something. So that, in the reverb time, that's a big, for me, I play a lot of reverb. So I'm a big reverb player. And that's why I generally put my volume pedal between my time, space, and modulation, right? So that I can swell and I let the reverb notes tail, because, well, I can't play what's before the reverb, so I let the reverb play for me. So
we can do a little.
Okay.
I can do it with my volume knob.
Is it on?
It's not.
Okay, there we go. Strike a note, just strike a hard note. Okay, no reverb. Like staccato it. Okay, here we go. Here goes
There's
reverb.
a little on.
Here I'll just spread. Again, the difference between that and delay. Here the kickback.
Yep.
So that's delay, but reverb has more of a spread to it.
And scientifically, they're the same thing. It's just the only difference is the kickback, the distinct.
Yep. Yeah. We won't get into the depth of it. If you're like new to reverb, get a really simple one that just says it's going to say room, hall, slapback, or something like that. It might be,
Spring. Probably spring.
Yeah, probably spring is the big deal. I won't explain what a spring reverb is, but it's very cool when you get an amp with an actual spring reverb. I have an old Hammond Leslie amp that has an actual spring reverb in it, and it puts electricity on this side of a set of springs and electricity on this side of a set of springs, and sound travels through that and creates a space through springs. So spring reverb is actually probably one of the most common reverbs, especially on a guitar amp, because a lot of your guitar amps are driven with tube-driven spring reverbs on them, and so that's a real common sound. So I, get a simple one that you could, like this Hall of Fame is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. You could get super complex like the Big Sky, where you're programming a lot of things. I have a big reverb like this, and I really just use one sound on it. And so I've spent way too much money on that reverb when I just have one kind of.
It's kind of how I use my delay pedal.
Yeah, and so now my delay pedal, you know, I have, this is a very, you can get delay pedals that are just time and stuff, but my delay pedal is a little more complex, and I'm using for, you know, and so, but I use a program to kind of time it with the music that we're playing, especially when we're on stage. We're using Ableton, which is definitely a click track, which is definitely in time, and so that's the only reason why I would need that. Otherwise, a basic delay that I can tap tempo and get it in time, because you'll keep it in time with 8th notes, quarter notes, dotted eighths, dotted quarters, 16th notes. You get less than 16th note and you're in slapback territory. So 30-second notes, you kind of get there. So
we got overdrives.
Overdrives.
Kind of time-based.
Time-based, right. So we get into, you know, time-based. So think of that. Overdrive, distortion, you know, fuzz, kind of in a category. You have all the peripheral stuff that you can have, but overdrive, you know, those, I like to think of those as, you know, my drive section, basically, what's going to drive the sound. Then you get into time-based, which you get into delay and reverb. I like to run mine, I like to run my drives softer to harder.
Yep, me too.
Right, so that I can just step on them in order. You don't have to mess with the order, flip them around, do whatever you want, because it definitely changes the sound of your guitar when you're doing that. So, but I like to run it softer to harder. I stick a volume so I can swell, you don't have to. And then I run delay right away. So I stick a delay next in the chain. And then from there, I'll use my reverb, because the reverb will wash everything out. Like when you put reverb in, it starts to get really difficult to get your guitar to cut through the mix. That's why a lot of guitars sound very dry, because the more effects you add, the harder it is for it to get.
Yeah, because it gets wide.
It gets really wide. Yeah, and so now I do that intentionally, because again, I'm not that good, and I use these to cover up my lack of ability. So it's so time-based, delay, reverb, and then we get into the magic of modulation.
Yep.
You know, and so I don't know what you have for modulation on here.
So this thing can do basically anything.
All right, so I got a real simple chorus pedal. All right, so you're gonna hear a chorus, flanger. Read what other modulations we got. Chorus, flanger, phasers,
rotaries.
Okay, so anything that makes the sound move, right? It's gonna. A
lot of it is time-based.
Yeah, it can be. So vibratos, tremolos, those would be modulation, which tremolo is just up and down in volume, right? And so, and then there's the, what's the one with the light bulb that passes through it?
That's a rotary.
Yeah, so something like that. But some of them actually have the light bulb spinning in there, which is really cool. Very expensive, but very cool. So, but you've got a modeler here.
Yes.
I tend to think that when you start to get away from drives, modelers are fine. Like, you know, drives are a little bit less.
It's hard to, you're messing with volume and inputting volume, and like faking it on a computer with ones and zeros is different than using analog.
Yeah, but some of these, so Strymon is all digital. Everything is digital,
and they're mainly time-based and
but they have some drives that are fantastic. These guys have nailed it. These guys are the best in the business when it comes to this stuff. But I tend to care less about, like, is it analog or not when I get into delays, reverbs, modulations, right? So you can get into that, and you can get some fantastic modelers too that do drives well, but I can always hear a difference in a digital drive versus an analog drive. I don't know why I can, but I can hear a difference between a modeler and an amp.
I think it has to do with the dynamic range and the compression.
Yeah, and plus the other thing is your guitar, believe it or not, your guitar is designed like there's emotion in the way you play the string, and the drives interact with that. Like a great drive, a great analog drive, if you hit the string hard, it will break up hard. If you hit the string soft.
Really well.
So we'll show this here before
so the drive is on.
Okay, so the drive is on right here. Yep. To me, that's a great drive, right? Because that drive interacts with the guitar. Well, you get that, same thing happens with an amp. Modelers have a little bit of trouble doing that. I have great modelers. I have great, you know, I have great stuff that's awesome, and I love them. I use them in real time, but I can tell a difference. But when we get into modeling, so let's hear a modulation here. So
okay. So we can start. This one has some cool things. So let's start with a chorus. I really love the tri-chorus on this M5.
Okay.
It's 3 choruses in one.
So again, we're just looking at modulation, and there's a ton of ways to do it. So let's just play it.
So
is it
clean?
On? Okay, that's clean sound. Do it. Just give me a little bit of something.
I want to turn that reverb off.
Okay, reverb off. So it just does something to the sound. It modulates the sound, basically. So from there, I mean, the sky is the limit. We're not going to get into everything else, but that's the basics. So when you're building a pedal board, the big key, I think, is to have fun. I mean, it's an expensive hobby because once you buy one, you're going to need another one. And then once you need another one, you're going to always be chasing the perfect sound, and you're never going to find it. But so have fun with it. And be willing to just mess around and experiment. I love these things. They got 3 knobs, right? You just turn them until it sounds the way you want it turned. You can't mess that up. You know, it's just like, well, you could.
I've heard it messed up.
Yeah, I've heard it messed up. That's not true. But when you're playing around at home, you can't mess it up. So just play with it and do it. So hopefully, this is kind of an introductory. I know it's a lot of information. There's a lot of things. Come down and see us. I love to talk pedal boards. We will take them out of the case and plug them in for you to check out. Come down and visit us. Say hi. Get in and have fun with these things, and hopefully this is a little bit helpful. Until next time, we will see you next week.